I'm Mike,
And I'm Amber. Welcome to the Covenant Chronicles,
where we tell you the truth about relationships.
giving you the tools to build the foundation you always needed. Hi, guys. Welcome back to the podcast.
And here we are.
Today, we're talking about masculine roles in a relationship. Or, I guess, kind of just in general, like masculine versus feminine. And how that looks.
It's real simple. Don't be a little... No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't say that on this podcast.
I was a little worried where that was going.
No, in all seriousness, it is important to talk about these things. I think as a society, we've gotten this so screwed up, to where I don't even think most people know what masculine and feminine roles look like. Whether you talk about it from a worldly sense or even, from a biblical sense, it's so screwed up nowadays that people don't know up from down, right? And you see it all the time in relationships, and you see it consistently. And it's funny because once you've been through some stuff in relationships and you figure things out and you have a deeper understanding of it all and how it all works, we talk about this all the time where you can actually look at a couple now and almost call out just by the way they interact with each other, their body language, how they address each other, the looks in their eyes in photos together, right? Like you can call out where their relationship is. And a massive part of that has to do with these roles being jacked up.
Mm-hmm.
And, for anybody that's listened to any sort of relationship or life podcast or whatever you want to call it, or coaches or mentors or social media influencers or shit, I don't know, read a book, right?
Yeah.
Read the Bible, whatever, right? Whatever it is, it's, you hear about these roles and you hear about what they mean. And depending on what source you listen to, you get varying degrees of how these roles are supposed to look. But the fundamental basis is that the man is supposed to lead the relationship and do such a good job of it that his partner can trust in him to lead the relationship and make sure that things are handled, and she can follow that lead because she trusts that if she does, it's not going to lead to them walking off a cliff.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the biggest problem here is that there's so many little things that have gotten thrown out. And there's finite details, that vary from relationship to relationship that aren't as important. One of them for us is like not letting you touch doors. I've failed at that sometimes. Sometimes I've gotten in so far into my head, I'm just walking, in la la land over here, walking up to the car and not even thinking, it's hard enough to me avoid walking headfirst into the car. I might forget. But in general, that's a rule in our relationship, right? Is we don't, I don't let you open doors, don't touch the door. Hey, if I don't open the door, stand there and make me feel like an idiot for not opening your door, right?
Hold on. Pause for 2 seconds, because I think this is kind of important. Because if people don't know what masculine versus feminine energy is, or what it's kind of like defined as, they're going to be like, what even are you talking about?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So feminine energy is qualities like intuition, creativity, nurturing, and being very receptive, right? Masculine energy is defined by traits such as action, logic, structure, and directness. Okay, so when we're talking about these things and talking about masculine versus feminine energy, you're going to be able to tell really, one, where you fit currently, And just because you're a female does not mean that you live in your feminine energy.
No,
To be honest, most females live in their masculine energy.
which is the problem.
Yes. But in saying that, I think there's a lot of males that live in the feminine energy. So we kind of have these role reversals going on. So, like, as we're talking about things, kind of just remember that because, things like being a boss babe are so like in right now,
Hmm.
which is okay when you're at work, but not when you get home. And usually those things carry over, and people don't even realize that they're carrying it over into their relationship, into the home setting.
Right.
And that's where a lot of issues come into play in relationships because the natural state of a relationship should be, the man in his masculine and the woman in her feminine, but that's not usually what happens. It's usually swapped and reversed.
Oh, 100%. And
Or,
that's where, the series of actions and the way those actions are done are vitally important in that, right? And that's where I was, with the door thing, like I said, that's a minute detail that doesn't necessarily, translate to every relationship. I think it should,
hmm
right? Like my personal belief is open the darn door for your woman, right?
hmm
Like I train, you know, my sons that way. I've had that conversation with people, right? And we've called out people. We've been on, dinner dates with other couples and stuff. And I've said stuff, about
Yep.
that where when they're talking about it, we get in this conversation and I'm like, cool, why do you let her open the door? Right. And I call
Yep.
them out. It's my personal belief, right? However, that's not necessarily a core thing of what creates the masculine energy, right? And it's more about the leadership in the relationship, which is vastly different than dictatorial control,
Right.
right? Because that's a huge, huge differentiating factor there that most people don't understand, right? Because men have this thing, see, society's got them so screwed up and thinking so far one direction that it becomes this thing of they think that either one, they have to live in their feminine energy because if they don't, well, that's just not nice or whatever crap that they try to program men with, or they have to be a dictator, right?
hmm
Neither of which are true. And this is where understanding these factors and how to do this and what it looks like become a massive ordeal, right?
hmm
Doing what you say you're going to do, right? We were joking about that today and we were kind of going back and forth and had some fun banter, but at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is you need to do what you say you're going to do. If you say, hey, let's go back to the trash thing. Hey, babe, I'm going to take the trash out at this time. And that time comes, and 2 hours later, the trash is still sitting there. And then she gets upset at you. It has nothing to do with the dang trash. It has to do with you not doing what you said you're going to do.
Right.
When you comes to little things, you have to be decisive,
Yep.
right? There's this whole joke you see all about the internet about women don't know where they want to eat.
hmm
Cool. So why are you asking her?
hmm
Right? Why are you saying, hey, well, where do you want to eat? At the end of the day, she probably doesn't care.
hmm
If you've been with her for more than a week, you probably know what she likes. So just say, hey, we're going here tonight.
You don't even have to know them to literally our first date. You seriously sent me a message and were like, "You're going to meet me here at this time and we're having lunch at this place." And I was like, "Uh, excuse me?" Like, number one, what? Never have I had someone tell me, like, decide everything for me and then say, "You're going to meet me here." Like,
Funny thing
what?
is, you liked it.
I did like it. But at the same time, I was kind of like, excuse you, don't tell me what to do.
Uh-huh.
But also because I was definitely living in my masculine at that time. So, like, don't tell me what to do, sir. Like, I don't think so. But that's a huge one for women. Like, if you want to switch a woman out of her feminine, which we'll kind of talk about more at a different time, but like being decisive and making decisions
Mhm,
is a huge, huge thing.
mhm,
Like, you have to be able to be trustworthy, and like, we have to be able to bring things to you and you be able to like take it and handle it. And when that's not happening, like, that's a huge disconnect where women start stepping into their masculine
mhm,
because they feel like they can't trust their partner to do those things. Like, I can't trust you to make this decision. So
mhm,
I'm just going to start making all the decisions.
mhm,
And that automatically like flips on their masculine role, and now they're in charge, right?
mhm.
And making all the decisions about everything because, well, I can't trust my partner to make these decisions. I can't trust him to handle the things that I've asked him to handle.
Well, a big part of it comes back to confidence in men, right?
Mhm.
Because back to the societal crap that is just they try to pound into you from all these movies, right? Because let's be honest, yeah, everybody likes a good love story and this and that, but to put a modern term on it that the kids would understand, most of these dudes in these movies are simps, right? They don't lead the relationship, they chase her around like a puppy dog.
I'm just going to say this, like, a lot of women have this idea of like, that's what I want, is someone
Mhm.
chasing me all the time.
Till they get it, and then they pursue another dude while they're getting chased.
Yeah, because it isn't actually what we want. Like, yes, we want someone to adore us. Yes, we want someone to love us. Yes, we want someone to take care of us and be the man,
Mhm.
but we don't actually want someone who's just like not doing those things because they're, I don't even know. I don't know how to put it, but like
Well, and that's exactly the issue, right? Is like I said, I think Hollywood and these fairy tales and these Disney movies, right? They create this false sense of what that looks like, right? Because being nice, loving your partner, being attracted to your partner, adoring her, all of these things are vastly different than putting her on a pedestal.
Mhm,
All of these things are vastly different than saying, hey, I wanted to get you flowers because I wanted to do something nice for you. All of these things are vastly different than you setting up the dates and saying, hey, let's go on a date. Hey, we're going to this restaurant tonight. Or like our last date, right? Hey, I want you to, wear this. And I gave you a very brief overview description of what to expect, but I didn't tell you what we're doing or where
mhm.
we're going or how that's going to look, right? It
Yeah.
was like, hey, get a little bit dressed up, not super fancy, but not casual. You can wear whatever you want on your feet, but we're probably not going to be sitting very much. So, would recommend something kind of dressy but comfortable.
Mhm,
And, you will be eating, and then afterwards we're going to go do a different activity, right?
mhm,
And so still setting up the dates, still setting this and saying, "Hey, like here you go," right? And it's funny because you may hear women say, "Oh, what? I have to know. I can't do all this unplanned." No, you can't do that because you don't trust your man. Let's be honest, right? You might
yeah.
not like to hear that, but subconsciously that's what it is.
It's about control, and
Uh-huh.
control is actually a masculine trait.
Right.
And when we're living in our masculine,
Right.
we want control
Right.
versus, hey, I trust you.
Right. But we don't want to hear that, right?
Mhm,
We don't want to think about that.
Mhm.
No, it's just who I am. No, it's not.
No,
Right.
you have a control issue.
Mhm. I promise you, because everything you say you don't like and won't do with a man, and everything that, as a man, we try to convince ourselves, oh, she doesn't like this, right? Whether it's bedroom activities, whether it's, oh, she doesn't like to be surprised. I can't surprise her on a date. All this. No, it's because you're not leading and she doesn't trust you, right?
Mhm,
Because she found a dude that put her in her feminine back into the feminine. I promise you, all the stuff that she says she won't do, and she doesn't like, and she's not into, magically she's going to be okay with,
mhm,
right?
for sure. But that's, I think, maybe what we need to talk about is like what does it look like to actually be that like we have talked about it a little, but what things do you need to be doing to actually lead her back into her feminine? Because I'll be honest, like there's been times in our relationship where it was like you were in your masculine, I was in my feminine, but then there were times that we weren't doing so great and it switched back,
Mhm.
and I was definitely more in my masculine, and that, caused issues. But I would say that right now we're pretty much always back into, you're in your masculine, I'm in my feminine. And that's not to say there aren't, like, things here or there that come up, but
The biggest thing is doing what you say you're going to do, right? And that can be hard. Like a challenge for me is my entrepreneurial brain, as we call it. It's not even that I, you know, maybe don't have intention, but it's distraction.
mhm,
We've had things that I'm like, hey, let's do this, and we'll do it tonight. Talking to the kids or doing this or doing that activity or whatever, and it's something that needs to get done. But this is at 8 o'clock in the morning, and by the time 7, 8 o'clock at night rolls around, there's been so much that's happened. I've completely forgotten about it. Right.
mhm,
And so I've had to learn to write it down, set reminders in my phone, that sort of thing. Um, because otherwise, if I don't, right, then your issue's not resolved. We go a couple days, it gets brought up again. Hey, and then we go into this, well, now I'm not doing what I said I'm going to do. And that's a small example. A big thing is, on a grand scheme or a grand scale, like maybe it's not just a little conversation with your kid or, you know, fixing the toilet paper roll in the bathroom, holder in the bathroom, or whatever, honeydew chores or things come up. Maybe it's something bigger. Maybe it's, getting a new house or, taking care of some major thing in your lives, but not overpromising, right? Because as men, we love to overpromise. And the problem with that is we don't necessarily overpromise in the sense that, like, we'll promise you something that's not doable. We overpromise in the sense that we don't have the motivation within ourselves to do what is required to make that happen when we said it is,
mhm,
right? So you have to be conscious of what you're promising her and what you're telling her, accurately judge timelines and your motivation level or where your mindset is at in relation to how realistic that goal is,
mhm,
right? If you're like, hey, I'm going to get you a new house to live in the next 6 months, right? Whether that's buying or renting, she's just really not happy with whatever it is, right? You got a crappy neighbor that's always, creating problems. There's a bunch of stuff in the house that isn't functional. Say you're renting, you got a really crappy landlord that doesn't fix anything and it's broken all the time. Or if you've bought your house and, you bought a 2 bedroom because you thought that's what was going to work, and now you've got 3 kids and you're somehow making this work and that, and you're like, oh, I'm going to do it in the next 6 months or a year, and you working at this job that's barely paying your bills currently, you go, oh, I'm going to make it happen, but then you don't do anything to make it happen, right?
mhm.
And sometimes these things take sacrifices of, like, if you're going to promise it to her, make it happen. Go out the next day and look for a better job. Oh, well, whatever BS excuse you have, or start a side hustle, or maybe you have a business, right? What do you need to do to change that in change the things in your business to make that happen? Obviously, I do business coaching consulting on a daily basis. I can tell you 90% of the people that I talk to that have businesses have massive issues with the way their cash flow flows, the way their processes are set up, the way their procedures are set up, their plans, their vision, their goals, their growth strategy, all of it.
Mm.
And I'm like, okay, so say you're a business owner, right? And you promise your wife, your spouse, your partner, hey, I'm going to get you a new house this time next year, right? As an example. Well, what do? You just go to your business and you try a little bit harder to do the same crap you're doing. But that's not what it's going to take. You have to restructure your entire business to grow and be successful and make enough money. Do you know what that other house is going to cost you? How much money do you need saved up? How much is it going to cost per month? What do you need to do to get there? Right? Because you're not going to do that.
Yeah.
So either don't promise it or actually step up to hit that goal. Same thing if you've got a job, okay, well, what's it going to take? Put a plan on paper of what it takes to actually get that house in that timeline and how you're going to get there. We got to start taking extra hours. Well, maybe family time is important to you. I get it. Okay. Oh, I work 7 to 4 and, this, that, and the other. And I really can't work much later because family time and the kids' school and kids' soccer practice. And this. Okay. Well, what time do you go to bed? Oh, I get to bed around 9, 10 o'clock. Cool. Maybe you have to survive off 4 hours of sleep for the next year to make that happen.
Mhm.
Step up and do it, right? Go get a part time job before your job, overtime, side hustle, something, And if you're going to bed at 9 o'clock, okay, you're up by 2 and you're going to do something, right? To make it
Yeah.
happen. So the moral of the story is overpromising and not accurately gauging or not accurately having the correct mindset to make it happen. And be cautious, right? Because as men, we're so scared to let her down that we want to give her this grand promise just so we don't let her down in that moment.
Mhm.
She's not going to be as let down as you think if you're honest with her,
Mhm.
right? But let's go to step 2. Part of that is stepping up and living or trying your best to be at your full potential. That doesn't mean you're going to be perfect all the time. You very well might slack in some areas as you're going through this journey because part of that is figuring out who you are, where you're going, and where you're heading, right?
Mhm.
So that's a big thing. Your vision and where you're going is going to allow you to be consistent with continuing to be the best version of yourself, right? Just winging it and saying, okay, well, I saw all this stuff online and, I saw this guy and he's ripped and in shape and he has all these yachts and nice cars and that's what I'm going to do. Great. If that's what you're going to do, fantastic. Go do it.
Mhm.
But do you have a vision? Do you have an actual vision? Can you picture yourself in that life? Or are you just saying because, you got a little dopamine hit from something you watched on, your Facebook reels?
Yeah. What about emotional safety and security?
Oh, we're getting there. Don't worry. Don't worry, right? Because all of these, I wouldn't say that any of these are more important than the next. They all are kind of one package, except for the emotional part,
Mhm.
right? Because the emotional safety and security stems from a lot of the other stuff, right?
Mhm.
Because it's more of a circle. If you draw a circle, right? They all lead to each other, and you need that complete circle to be in your masculine so you can lead her properly and she'll trust you,
Mhm.
right? Because if you're doing what you say you're going to do, that leads to emotional security.
Mhm.
If you're being the best version of yourself, I promise you're going to have the emotional intelligence to actually create a safe space for her emotions,
Mhm.
right? And they all just keep leading back to each other. So that's a great point. So going back to the emotional security, how do you react when she tells you something, right?
Mhm.
And we don't always do it perfectly, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't get, we disagree, we start having some bickering. But what I can say is what we've gotten really good at is being a team. And if we notice that we're not there, we're not doing something that we should be, right? And our emotions start to raise, then I stop and I say, hey, we're not being a team right now, right?
Yeah.
We're struggling. We're being adversaries. This is not what either of us want. So take a break. Let's calm down. And then I'd love to talk to you.
Yeah.
Or if I feel that, hey, okay, I know where I screwed up. I know where this conversation went sideways. Being able to bring that back and say, can you tell me about this? Can you tell me? Right?
Yeah.
We're planning, screw it, might as well announce it on here. We're planning the wedding, right?
Yeah.
And we're going through that, and we had a misunderstanding, a miscommunication, and you got you got frustrated and overwhelmed. I got frustrated and a little bit, I mean, I guess I could say overwhelmed. And basically, instead of getting upset at you and keep pushing this, right? When it first occurred, it, we didn't necessarily, I guess, communicate well or bad or anything. It was just kind of whatever. And we had a little bit of time, and then you were still frustrated and overwhelmed, and just sitting down with you and saying, hey, tell me about your emotions. Tell me why you feel this way, what's going on, and what's making you feel this way,
Mhm.
right? And then explaining to you the logic behind why I said some of the things I did, but then taking the time to say, hey, what are your emotions? How are you feeling? What is making you feel this way?
Mhm.
Right? Because I'm going to come at a place of logic. You're going to come at a place of emotions.
Yeah.
And we got to meet somewhere in the middle to accomplish that. So the big thing is creating a space for your emotions and a place that you feel safe to express those emotions,
Mhm.
right? Because you did tell me, hey, this is what's going on. And not just like and this is big, right? Because this is the part most people are going to miss. When you first start doing this, especially if you're in a relationship and men, you haven't been doing this, she'll tell you when you first start doing this, but it's not going to be the words that you're hearing,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
But we've gotten to a place now where I've been doing it consistently with you for such an amount of time that you can actually decipher your emotions and thoughts and actually tell me exactly what it is,
Yeah.
right? And in that moment, it was, well, I'm frustrated because I feel like we miscommunicated. I didn't understand. Also, I'm triggered because of my past,
Mhm.
and this is making me feel specifically this way,
Yeah.
right? But that's what it is creating that space. And even though I had my own logical way of thinking, it wasn't, okay, I hear you, but see, here's the thing. No, no, no. It was, I understand. Don't feel that way, babe, because that's not what we're trying to do here. It's not at all what's going on. And
Mhm.
I understand that your past is making you feel this way, but you don't need to feel that way because I'm not talking about these things because I feel that you're doing this thing that's triggering you. That's not at all what you're doing. I'm just simply trying to have an open conversation with you so we can be on the same page as a team because both of us have a part to play and it's not you. It's not you doing X, Y, and Z. That's not at all what's going on here.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, the emotional safety and security side of the masculine role for men is probably one of the biggest and most important things for women to get out of their masculine
Yeah.
because Like, yes, saying or doing what you say you're going to do is huge, and that does create a level of safety, right? And a lot of the like little things that you can do, like just opening my doors and stuff, like that does create a level of security, and that creates trust. And just it's not something big, but it does do that for us. But that emotional safety and security, and when you can actually feel like you have that with your partner, will just like automatically switch you out of that masculine role that women get trapped in.
Mm-hmm.
And every time that we've not been in those roles, it's been because there was something going on that was creating that distance from the emotional safety and
Mm-hmm.
security.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was acting like a little bee.
you said it, not me. I'm just kidding. But
That's what.
it's true.
Uh-huh.
Like, there was stuff going on that, was putting you in a certain place that was pushing me away. And I no longer felt that safety and security.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't feel like I could come to you and talk to you. Didn't feel like I could rely on you. Didn't feel like I could trust you with things. And therefore, I just stepped into those roles. I'm like, well, if I can't trust him, if I can't talk to him, if I don't know that he's going to be there, well, now it's my job. I have to step in and do that, which I think happens in so many relationships. Just
Mm-hmm.
like that's the role that women feel like they have to take on. Like, we are caretakers, that is our thing. But when we feel like we have to take on everything
Mm-hmm.
and take care of everything to keep everyone going, to keep everything going, that's when we step into that role that's not meant for us. But for a lot of women, it's like, what other choice do we have, right?
It's a survival instinct. It's like a base level, survival instinct is really what it comes down to.
Right, for sure. And I think there's a lot of like trauma and just like past stuff that plays into that. But I think whenever the relationship is not in the place that it should be, if the man is not in the place that he should be, and you do have this thing where like we just can't trust you, we don't believe what you're saying, you don't believe what you're saying, like there's a whole lot that goes into it, then we step into these roles that we're not meant to be in, and then you just clash because that energy is not meant it's not meant to share a space together.
Mm-hmm. I think a big part of it is, well, I don't think I know a big part of it is that the it's the emotional side, right?
Mhm.
For the masculine, like that's a big deciding factor right there,
Mhm.
right? And that the problem is that society, right, has done this thing where it's either men need to have zero emotion,
Mhm.
never, like, don't have it,
Never
it
show
doesn't exist, it
emotion.
don't show it, don't.
Yeah.
Or the opposite end of the spectrum of like women basically are like, oh no, I want a man that like cries and I can see his and all this stuff. And at the
Mhm.
end of the day, you don't, right? Not saying it can't ever happen, but the issue is that it's the emotional based reactions. When a man starts having emotional based reactions,
Mhm.
that basically puts her in her masculine and puts him in his feminine.
Mhm.
So if you guys are disagreeing and she says something she shouldn't and you start crying, or you guys are disagreeing and you start yelling at her, or you guys are disagreeing and you start saying messed up things to her,
Mhm.
right? Those are all examples of stuff that's an emotional based reaction.
Mhm.
Or the you always, you never crap.
Mhm.
We've talked about that before on the podcast,
Yeah.
right? Those emotional based reactions are the things that create issues and make him fall more into his feminine and her to fall more in her masculine.
Mhm. I
And,
think the, like, yelling and being, like, verbally abusive thing is a
well,
big one. I wouldn't say, like, when you talk about, like, crying, I think there's times that, like, it's okay and it's actually, like, good for the relationship, but it's very few. Like, I'm gonna call you out for a minute, but there's been a couple times that has happened with us, and I actually feel like we grew closer in those moments because it was something that needed to happen. Like, it was an important moment, right? But it's not every time that there's an argument. It's not every time that,
well, and you're talking
is
about, in over the course of years, less than on one hand you can count situations that were complete emotional breakdowns and not, hey, oh, she bullied. No, like digging up the past,
yeah,
working through some of the toughest crap.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
those situations, sure.
yeah,
But when it's a situation of emotional um deregulation,
yeah, where you just can't handle your emotions.
right, that's a completely different
Yeah.
situation in which it creates emotional or the lack of emotional safety.
Mhm.
And like you said, the verbal abuse stuff, um, physical stuff, guys getting upset, throwing things, like
Yeah, just
all,
explosiveness.
yeah,
Yeah.
any sort of explosiveness, like that's where it's, oh, well, I'm masculine. No,
No.
right? Leading the relationship and having a masculine leadership, when you disagree, saying, hey, we're not agreeing right now. We're becoming enemies. I'm not going to let this turn into something it doesn't need to be.
Mhm.
So we're going to stop and revisit this when we can come to a place of better understanding.
Yeah.
Or walking away from a situation. And by that, I mean, hey, we both need some time to cool off. I'm going to remove myself from the situation. I want you to know that this isn't done. I want to continue this conversation and I love you. And for those reasons, I want to be able to connect with you, which we can't do right now. So I'm going to give us both some time and then taking a step back from the situation
Yeah.
or having enough sense to say, okay, it's okay for me to have some feelings about this situation, but my feelings are not the priority. And if I'm going to invalidate your feelings, we're not going to get anywhere,
Yeah.
right? And that's a big part of it is validating your feelings
Mhm.
because just because they don't make logical sense
Even
to
if you don't
us,
agree with them.
right, right, even if I don't agree with them, they are very real to you.
Mhm.
And to have that understanding of saying, okay, like I hear you. I hear where you're coming from. I understand why you feel that way. And then letting you come down from that space and then say, hey, you know, I was on this side of the fence because this is the way I was thinking.
Mhm.
More often than not, you're like, okay, I understand. And then I can continue to lead us whatever direction we need to go. And you're like, okay, I understand. So how do we move forward? And I can say, well, we do X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay. And then we're a team. And then you're on board and we keep moving,
Yeah.
right? But if you were to get emotional about something or get upset about something or freak out about something, whatever the case may be, And then I tell you, well, you're dumb, or that doesn't make sense. You're being illogical, or, any number of things that people love to say in these
Mhm.
situations. Well, all it's going to do is invalidate you,
Yeah.
which makes things worse,
And
doesn't
then
give you a safe space.
right. Then we're triggered and back into our masculine.
Right, right. And a lot of this stems from, like you said, the emotional safety and having enough sense as men to say, okay, it's our job to give her a place for emotions. No, don't get me wrong. If she has violent outbursts and yells and screams at you, calls you every name under the sun,
Mhm.
or throws things at you, here's the thing: the difference between control or a fight for control and leadership is what's your reaction to that
Mhm.
or lack thereof,
Yeah.
right? Because if she does that and saying, look, I'm not going to tolerate this kind of behavior, this is unacceptable, in a level, calm tone, this is not how we're supposed to treat each other. So I'm going to leave this situation.
Mhm.
If you want to continue this, we're going to do it in a context where you can control this.
That's where the problem lies, though, is that that's not usually what happens, which is
No.
why they're in a power struggle
Right.
in their masculine roles.
Right.
She's behaving that way because of not feeling like she can trust you and all of these other things, not at all saying that it's okay. Like that should not be happening in a relationship either way. Like
Mhm.
the female should not be outbursting just as much as the man should not be outbursting. But when it is happening either side, I think that's when you can really tell that things are out of balance. And what's hard about that is I think if a man is leading in the way that he's supposed to be, she's not going to be doing those things. But that's also a lot of that comes from healing and
Mhm.
figuring things out within yourself. And if you're in a relationship where you do have these healthy roles, that's probably what you're doing anyways.
Mhm. Well, and that's the other thing, right? Like I've been asked before, because like obviously the big thing is um, creating these boundaries, right? And whatever that case may be, and creating a boundary around disrespect is a healthy boundary to create,
Hmm.
right? But I've had this conversation because regardless of how what your relationship looks like, right? You have to decide what is important to you in your relationship. And
Yeah.
like we talked about, one of the guys I sat down, I took to breakfast one day, we were talking about outfits, right? He didn't think certain stuff that his partner was wearing that it was appropriate for her to wear that.
Hmm.
Okay. We can get into a whole conversation just about that.
Hmm.
But let's just stick with that was one of his boundaries.
Hmm.
Okay. But you get into this crap because of society, right? Where you get one side that starts calling her names for wearing whatever, and he's like, and trying to validate him. And then you get the other side telling him he's insecure for even caring about that.
Hmm.
And he's just trying to be controlling.
Hmm.
Well, no, this is one of his values.
Hmm.
His values has nothing to do with your opinion that's probably been shaped by some bullcrap you've seen on social media anyways,
Yeah.
right? So, well, how do you deal with that? She wears something inappropriate, and this is where it's important to know who you are before you get into these relationships, right? Because that can be a massive thing where you go years one direction and one day you wake up and go, "Oh crap."
Hmm.
But him just being like, "Hey, look, I don't want to control you. So whatever you want to wear is your right. This is a value of mine, and the partner that I'm with will dress modestly,
Hmm.
and that's who I want to be with because person I want to be with values that for XYZ reason.
Mhm.
If that's not okay with you, I completely understand. And I don't ever want to tell you what you have to do because you're an adult and that's not my job,
Yeah.
right? And then have enough balls to stand on it, right?
Yeah.
There's all of these things that when he can set a healthy boundary, right? Because the same woman that's going, well, that's just controlling. Let's be honest, that same chick that's telling him that probably is going to cheat on him with a dude that tells her just that.
Yeah.
Because, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with what it's about, it has to do with the fact that one guy had enough confidence and emotional intelligence to say, this is what I want, and not say, you have to do this because I say so, because it's
Mhm.
not a controlling dictatorship, right? That's not what being the
Well,
masculine is about.
and to be honest, there's gonna be a lot of people that listen to this and think, "Oh, that is controlling." But the thing is that truthfully, if a woman is in her feminine, she's probably gonna hear that and be like, "Oh, that makes sense. Like, if I wanna be with this person, like, okay, you know?"
But if that doesn't work for you,
But
don't be with them.
if it doesn't if you don't wanna dress differently, like, if you wanna dress how you wanna dress, yeah, okay. It's probably time to move on and find someone else that's okay with it. But the caveat there is that, to be honest, is it more about a control thing because someone's saying
Right.
they don't like something
Right.
and you just are automatically your defenses go up and you're like, well, you can't tell me what to do.
Right.
So I'm going to do what I want to do.
Right.
Or do you really genuinely just care that much about what you wear? Because to be honest, it's probably more your lack of control in that situation than it is what you're actually wearing.
And then that's when you start going down the conversation of gaslighting and all the other crap of, oh, well, you're just controlling, you're just insecure, you're blah, 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 blah. Because she doesn't want to face herself and say, oh, this is about lack of control. Right.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I mean, we've had plenty of conversations about various topics when we first got together. Right.
Mhm.
But that was part of the thing I told you right out of the gate of, look, if you want to do this, I completely understand. Go for it. I'm in full support of it. My partner won't do whatever action, right?
Yeah.
Whatever the person that I want to be with long term, right, won't do this long term. So I just want you to understand that if you do whatever this behavior is, okay, but just understand that it's going to change the dynamic of our relationship. If you want to be serious with me, this is the expectations I have. And if you don't, okay, we can just be playful partners or we cannot be together, whatever works better for you.
What's
But
funny about that is we'll talk about this seriously. Like, to be honest, like all the things that you said, it was like, well, that's just who I am, anyways, right?
mhm,
But part of me in the moment when you're talking about it, that control thing comes up and it's like, excuse me?
right,
Like, I will do what I want to do.
right.
Even though it's all stuff that I do anyways, but that little bit of, like, our control issues and our, like, need to feel like we're in control pops up, and even though it's probably something you do anyways, you're like, "You can't tell me what to do."
Right. And that's the important part though of what it looks like to lead the relationship from a leadership space, from a masculine space, right?
Mhm.
It's not about control. I'm not going to tell you what to do, right? You
No.
want to go party in Vegas with a bunch of girls, get super drunk, and probably make some really poor choices and, live up the whole what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas lifestyle. Fantastic. Good for you. I hope you enjoy it. Hope you have the time of your life. My partner is not going to do that. So hey, it's been real, it's been great, right? And I move on. But that's your choice. I'm not going to
Yeah.
tell you, I'm not going to, right? And that's the difference, right? Because the feminine mindset is, well, you can't do that. I'm not going to allow it. This, that, and the other.
Yeah. Active,
Yeah, and
like,
react. Oh, well, only these type of women do. I'm not going to say any of that. I don't have the time. I don't have the want. I'm not going to demean you. I'm not going to put you down. Hey, if that's what you choose to do, okay, fantastic. Like, I'm happy for you, and I hope that brings you happiness and joy. It's not what I want my life to be about. So, maybe we're not a good match as far as partners. You know, I've valued the time we've had together, and that's it, right? Like,
mhm.
there's no, hey, like, and it's not giving you an ultimatum saying, well, if you go, I'm leaving you. No, this is a boundary for me, right? Because an ultimatum, that's a power trip in itself, right? Of
Yeah.
trying to, well, you do this or I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
No, that's
That's a
an
control
ultimatum.
thing
Yeah, it's
too.
a
So,
control thing, right? And you see it on both sides. But that's at the end of the day, like, I'm not going to give you an ultimatum. Like, these are just my boundaries. If you don't have to be with me. I understand if you don't want to, right? If you don't feel the same way as me and we can't get past that, okay,
mm,
right? Is
uh,
what it is.
it's healthy to have boundaries on both sides of this,
For
but
sure.
like, that's not necessarily a masculine versus feminine thing, but like, I your point in
Is
that is just it is important, but when you're not doing it the right way, it does turn into a situation where you're gonna throw your partner out of balance also.
that's and no matter what emotional scenario you're talking about, right? Having a level head, a calm demeanor, and being able to ground her is the probably one of the biggest, like you said. It's part of a sphere, but if you did want to put a starting place as like this is where it is, yeah, I mean emotional safety is at the top of that sphere, right?
Mhm.
And you basically have three things, and they've all got arrows that point to each other of the cycle, right? Where you've got emotional security, doing the things that you said that you're going to do, and being decisive,
Mhm.
right? Like those are the three main things, and everything within the relationship as his role, what he's supposed to fulfill, fits into one of those things,
Yeah.
right? And they all lead back to each other in the giant circle. But at the end of the day, I mean that's what it comes back to, right? There's been, like you said, examples, and like I am hard on guys, we've had that conversation. I've told guys this that I've talked to because I have made mistakes, right? I've done it in my past relationships. I've made mistakes at times with you. Nobody's going to be perfect. You're not going to, fulfill this all the time, but being at a place where you are secure within yourself because you've done the work on yourself, right? It's not about changing her. It's not about, well, she has to see your side.
Mhm.
It's not about, well, she needs to see what I'm trying to tell her. No, that's a weak, I'm in my emotions place to come from.
Mhm.
It's the I'm going to have my vision. I'm going to have my standards. I'm going to have my boundaries. I'm going to stand on them. I'm not going to be rude. I'm not going to be demeaning. If we argue or disagree, I'm not going to get upset and have these major reactions at you,
Mhm.
right? Because what's funny about that is, like you said, when it comes back to the control thing, in those scenarios, when the guy starts going back and forth and this power struggle ensues, it's because she's in her masculine. But
Mhm.
when you have a calm demeanor and you're like, look, this is unhealthy. We're not going to do this. I love you and I want to come from a place of love. So we're going to take a little break from this, right? Or when you're setting boundaries and you say, hey, look, this is what's for me. That's not you, I understand. Or simply talking through things and explaining things to you,
Mhm.
right? I think that's another huge place that men slack on this stuff is they set expectations and there's unrealistic or unrealized expectations of things they expect her to know, things they expect her to understand, things they expect her to see or hear, or, a way that they expect her to operate. And without communication, without us explaining things, right?
Mhm.
Of like, hey, this is where my mind is at, or this is the direction I want our lives to go, or I want to take these steps because of X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
Then it creates this unrealized expectation,
Yeah.
and then he gets in his emotions and then starts acting feminine,
Mhm.
right? And then here we are back to the same situation.
Yeah. Well, having that direction is huge, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because if we know where we're going, we can help guide you as well in
Mm-hmm.
the process, which is part of what the feminine is. Um, but if we don't have guidance or a vision or any, like, we're just
Mm-hmm.
kind of bouncing around trying to figure out what we're supposed to do, where we're supposed to be going, what's going to happen next. Hence, you're back in your masculine again.
Mm-hmm.
So, being decisive, being clear, being having that vision, communicating that vision, those are all really important things for keeping a woman in her feminine.
Mm-hmm. We're going to use that to go to part two because I want to talk about the feminine side too, right?
Yeah.
And I want the women to hear from your side of what that looks like and how me doing these things, how that translates to you and the things that you do.
Hmm.
But before we do that, I'm going to challenge men to a couple steps here. First of which, figure out your vision,
Hmm.
right? And a lot of guys are, oh, I don't know what I want my life to look like. I don't know, and this and that. Part of that is you being not in your masculine. Because I promise you, when you dial in your stuff, and that doesn't mean you're going to have every detail figured out,
Yeah.
right? But you're going to have a grand vision of, I want my life to look somewhat like this.
Yeah.
Figure out your vision. Two, do an audit of your motivation levels, your capabilities, and where your life currently sits,
Hmm.
and see where all that sits and where it lines up. So then you know what you can promise and what you can't promise, and start focusing on, if you say you're going to do something, do it. If you tell her you're going to take out the trash, football is not that important. Well, all these little things, the TV show you're watching, the
TikTok,
yeah,
Facebook.
yeah, whatever this stupid thing is, right? Now, this is within reason. If you are like, hey, when I get home, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and you're trying to focus on your job, that's different.
Hmm.
But write it down on a piece of paper and put a note in your pocket. So when you're taking all the crap out of your pockets when you get home, you'll remember. Put a reminder in your phone.
Hmm.
Whatever works for you, do that and do what you say you're going to do.
Hmm.
And then the third thing is, I want you to analyze all of your recent disagreements, say for the past, I don't know, let's go 2 weeks, right? Past 2 weeks. And if you're having them every day, it's probably because you're not doing this stuff. Because I'm going to tell you, no matter what you think about her and all these things that you tell yourself about her doing X, Y, and Z, and she doesn't listen, and she always wants to argue, and this and that, is because you're not leading the relationship.
Hmm.
Because if you were, I promise you, she's not going to do all this,
Hmm.
right? We have a saying about Women only do what you allow them to get away with.
Mhm.
And it's not about control, right? If she's yelling and screaming all the time, why are you tolerating it?
Mhm.
Because that's not a healthy way to act. But the flip side is, are you doing what you're supposed to do? Because if you're stepping up as a man and you're doing everything you're supposed to do, she's not going to do that. Or you're going to have enough confidence to say, look, this is not how we speak to each other. I don't want to be in a relationship in which we demean each other and
Mhm.
yell and scream just because we disagree.
Yeah.
So this is my boundary. And
Mhm.
if we can't figure this out, then we probably need to start looking at a different option,
Yeah.
right? So examine these disagreements for the last 2 weeks, figure out where you went wrong. I don't care about what she said. I don't care about how she looked at you. I don't care about anything that she did. Where did you go wrong in leading that situation, and what could you have done different? And I want you to start thinking about those things. Every time you argue over the next few weeks or disagree, right? Because like us, we don't hardly argue or disagree. But there's little things, maybe once a week, right, that we disagree on, or twice a week, a couple times a week. And if we're disagreeing on something, typically it just needs a little bit of a tweak for us to flow better and
Yeah.
to make sure we're on the same team. So analyze those situations over the next week and figure out what you can be doing differently.
Mhm.
And on that note, we're going to roll into the next episode where we talk about the feminine side and all the
Yeah.
fun stuff that you want to talk about and how these things affect you.
Yeah. Well, we will see you in the next episode.
Maybe not see, but we'll hear you or you'll hear us, one of the two.
Uh, there's that. Bye, guys.
Thanks, guys.